Hi guys, I'm back again today and we are checking out Dutch streets are 300% safer than American ones. 300%. That is three times more, or maybe 250 more. What am I saying? Anyways, beautiful peeps, before we do start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, and let's get it.
Most urban streets are too dangerous. They're too hostile. In the US, where I'm from, 100 people a day are dying because of traffic, because of the roads. When cities have about 1/3 of their space dedicated to streets, streets have a very important function, and they can be a high potential to make changes. But we're going to go into the city and sort of see the layers of the city. All right? Okay, let's do it. Let's go.
So for those of you who watch the channel, you might have seen a couple years ago we did a tour with Meredith around Amsterdam, and I think this one's going to have some similarities, but you'll have some slight differences with doing some lessons along the way and really focusing on what we can take from the experience here into different cities, which I think will be really beneficial for a lot of different people throughout the world. Hope you guys enjoy. It is a little drizzly out here. Hopefully the camera survives and hopefully Tara survives. We'll have some fun. We're testing out the weather sealing on this camera. We'll see how it holds up. They say pain is temporary, but I think also rain is temporary. Going away. What do the Dutch say, Tara? What do they say?
Not made of sugar.
What do you think? Are you made of sugar?
Right now I am.
So we just rode from the outskirts of Amsterdam, and into more of a...
So what I'm getting from this so far is she is a tour guide for mostly Americans, to kind of like see how Netherlands is. I'm not sure if it is like historical tourism or leisure. I'm not necessarily sure, or it's all of the above, or is it specifically towards like engineering, architecture? I don't know. Like, is there a specificity to her touring, or is it just like, hey, she wants to include this to her tour guide? I mean, to her touring. Anyways, this is interesting actually. I want to try, if ever, right? It would be fun. I don't know if it's like open to everyone or it's just like American specifically.
a neighborhood feel, huh? And we went from some of the lowest cycling rates, and now we are in a place with higher rates of cycling. It's denser, right? Yeah, look at the buildings. We have people who live here. Out where the Urban Arrow headquarters are, there's not a lot of people living in closer quarters. Actually, the Netherlands is one of the densest countries in the world. But it's not too high. It's not huge high-rise buildings. It's very moderate, 3 to 4 stories, but we have people. If we look around us here, what elements, besides this protected bike lane, what elements of the urban environment do you think supports higher rates of cycling here? Smaller, more narrow, cozier streets. We just rode our bikes through a very residential area, right? Where the streets are much narrower. What's across the street from us? A supermarket, a bike shop, restaurants. There's probably doctor's offices, there's pharmacies, there's daycares. We just passed a school. There are amenities, there's services and amenities for people who live here, right here in this neighborhood. And so land use is a huge component of transportation. And these two things go together like a pair. So when we have places for people to get to, it affects how they arrive there, by bike, by foot, by car. The feel of the street, right? It's the aesthetics. The quality of the street as well is narrow, the speeds are slower. We can have a conversation here and hear each other. So that also means that the public space is something that enhances the quality of the area. It makes people want to come here. The lesson here, at least to me, of course everyone has their own lessons, but the main lesson for me is that there are these very critical environmental factors that help cycling, and land use is one of them. Services, amenities, places where people want to go. Mobility is not just something that people do just to do, most of the time. It's the places that people want to reach. And so if we bring those places closer to people, they will be able to reach them more easily. We're actually not going too far, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the design. Yeah? Okay.
Masks double as so many things.
Sorry.
And from that stop to this stop, you probably noticed we went up onto little, speed tables, went down and up and went down, right? Maybe you also notice that the texture of the pavement they're stones, right? They're pavement stones for the most part. There's all these little small elements of the environment that are slowing cars down. A lot of this happened, some in the 70s, but actually much later as well. It wasn't until the 1990s that the Netherlands passed some very important policy called systematic safety or sustainable safety. We're standing at one of these such examples of sustainable safety. So sustainable safety, there are three main principles of sustainable safety. And I like to talk about them because I think that it's sort of revolutionary. But sustainable safety is revolutionary for its time. One principle is that humans make errors in traffic. It's the way that humans are, right? We make errors. The second one is that the government is responsible for making sure that the design of the street minimizes impact from those errors. And the design of the street should reflect this, should reflect safety and allowing for these errors to happen, right? Think about a child on a bike. My 7-year-old can bike, but she's looking around. She's kind of swerving a little bit, right? We want to make sure that the bike paths are wide enough for that type of movement. Or an elderly person who also needs a little bit more space to maneuver. And we want to make sure that in a shared traffic environment, like a residential street, that there can be slow speeds and safety to allow for these types of errors, right? The Netherlands implemented this policy, which means that there are 4 different classifications of roads. We've been on several of them. Residential roads, neighborhood arterial roads, which we'll also see, and then a little bit of higher up arterial roads, and then a highway, right? And so throughout the Netherlands, you know exactly what street you're on by the feel of it and by the design characteristics of it. And that's really unique. In America, in California, if you go from one city to another, the design of the streets are all different. But here, it's very clear as a driver what the expectations are. So here's one example. This is a lower grade arterial road that is a connector road to that arterial, right? It's a connector. You'd go from this street to this street. You physically are going up onto this, I call it a welcome mat, right? It's a physical speed table, and then you're going into the public space. This is where people are walking and bicycling, and then you're going down into the residential area. There are no signs. It's an intuitive feature that you will see across the whole country, in every city, in every part of the city. It's there for cars.
I like this because I feel like I'm in class. I'm learning something, not like in a class, not in a classroom, but in a class, and I'm learning something. It's very interesting too. It's not like a class wherein you're like, oh, this is boring. No, it's actually interesting the way she explains it, and obviously I'm also interested in the topic. So yeah.
Right, for car drivers to know, hey, this is an area where people are walking, people are biking. I'm a guest here. I need to slow down and look around. Once these policies were implemented, the safety increased drastically. In the 70s, there were, up to 1,500 deaths a year of cyclists and people in the street, and now there's, I think, in Amsterdam, there's about 2 deaths a year. You could say that it's very safe, but on the other hand, shouldn't 0 be the goal, right? And it is. So, in places like the U.S. where 100 a day, I mean, it's awful. It's a silent epidemic, as it's been called. And it's not just the U.S. I mean, it's worldwide. It's the #1 cause of death of young adults in the world. It's traffic injuries.
So many urban arrows. So crazy. Hey, you're going here. Oh, thank you. All right, don't get run over. Thank you. All right. So I really like filming these tours because I think it's good for us to be able to see different infrastructure and think about how can we apply it to our own cities. Not always so easy to think of these ideas or to read about this in a book or that sort of thing, but to actually see it and to be able to visualize it and think about how this might be similar to your own city and how we can bring these ideas home to us. I mean, that's something I've been actively trying to do on my own, and then trying to bring these similar sort of ideas to the videos and sharing with you here. Certainly interested to know if more people are interested in seeing these videos, these types of videos. Maybe you have other ideas of how to share these things or really bring these ideas to light, because from my side, I'd love to see more cities like this. Now, you might have noticed as we went around this roundabout that cyclists actually have priority. There's these little shark teeth, as they're called, these little triangles that show who's supposed to yield. At times, people on the bike are supposed to yield, and oftentimes for pedestrians and different things like that. And sometimes we just yield when we're not supposed to, like that people walking a baby in a stroller as I just wave them on. But cars, they have to yield to cyclists, and there's no traffic lights. It just goes around a roundabout. Bikes can continue to go around, and it's interesting, but it works really well. Something I think most people wouldn't really think about. And I don't know, I wonder, do you think that will work with our culture or your culture? Pretty amazing when you give people some autonomy, what's actually possible. This is pretty over here on the right. Wow, so cool.
So it feels a little bit even different now, right? We're just there is the heart of the city, the historic core. So you feel much more energy, much more city life here, right? But what we were just riding on is one of the busiest routes for bicycling in the city. And the city of Amsterdam now has this new challenge. Cycling is increasing in the city. So how do we make space for more cycling, given the limited space that we have? So it's a new challenge. How do we keep cyclist flow without delaying cars and delaying car traffic? And one way that they're going about it is experimenting with public space and with streets and intersections. And here's one example that was actually a replication from an experiment across town. Because the experiment was successful, they replicated it here. But this is a very busy intersection. What do you notice? There's no traffic lights. There's trams, there's people walking. It's one of the busiest bicycle paths in Amsterdam, and yet there are no traffic lights. So across the city, they did an experiment where they shut off the traffic lights for a period of 2 weeks to see if bicycle traffic flow would increase and if it wouldn't delay the tram, it wouldn't delay cars, and other effects. And that's the experiment they did, 2 weeks. But it wasn't guaranteed to work. People were very nervous. The city was nervous about it. The engineers, let me tell you, the engineers were very nervous. everyone came together finally in the end and said, okay, we'll test 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. Not only did the flow of bicycle traffic improved about 4 times, so it definitely worked in that, but it also did not delay any other mode. So that was also very important for the success. So it's not that it's an anti-car strategy, because they've actually increased the speed on other streets. So they're sort of focusing car movement on certain streets and allowing cyclists to have priority on other streets. So yeah, you can sort of watch here. There's a car coming. You see how they interact with cyclists here. Slowing down. There's people walking.
Making
So
the eye contact rule. That's what I
Yes.
remembered from 2 years ago.
Yes, yes. Very,
Should learn that in Belgium too.
very good point.
Oh, I think it's everyone is included, so anybody can. I thought it was specific like to Americans, like come see how people are doing here. But I think it's anyone who's interested. So this will be a great tour, to be honest. Even if you've watched it, it'll be nice to experience it and be explained about everything. Also, because you forget things, so a great reminder will be good, and also actual to be in person and experiencing this will be a great way to learn. What am I trying to say? But anyways, if you get it, that's good.
Is eye contact. Did you also experience that when we were going around the roundabout? Did you experience some eye contact with drivers? Bit? Yeah. There's a bus, there's a police, there's a fire truck, there's lots of urban arrows. So here we go. Here, this is some the traffic situation here is of course different because
That is interesting because the car is the one that's slowing down. And then it only moves when the cyclists are moving or gone, right? So that's good because in our country, I would just put it that way. In our country, it would be like, no, you're a cyclist or you're a motorist, because bikes also. You wait, or if you're a pedestrian, you're a person, you wait, and then we move. Sometimes you can get stuck at a traffic light for God knows how long. Like, yes, there is a pedestrian, like those zebra crossings, some people would say. But they don't give a fudge. They don't give a famelama how long you stay there. Like, for me, as a person who gets really anxious about crossing, I'm scared. Like, I cannot cross. I only cross when it's like there's no car at all in sight, or if there's like people at the outer side and I'm in the middle, then I would cross with them. Yes, get here first, okay? I'll save myself. So that's the only time I would like cross with them. But most of the time, I would be stuck there for ages. Like, people take the short route of crossing at the pedestrian, but if there is like a walk bridge, I would rather take that. Even if it's like the long way route, long way around, I would rather take that than like wait to cross there, because for me it's longer because I will be stuck there forever. So the fact that in here the cars actually stop and then they wait for their turn, or they wait to see that all the bikes and everyone is done, then they move, is really, really good, because it makes a driver like conscious to, oh, okay, I have to really like slow down, I have to think before I go, instead of just like going. They don't give a fudge if there's a bike, the motorbike, or there's a person, right? Because over here they don't care. So it doesn't make the drivers conscious enough to care if there's like a bike coming or a motorbike coming. So there's a lot of accidents in those circumstances. Cars and motorbikes are the highest accidents here when it comes to like on the road. There's a lot, if not I feel like it's every day. I'm not sure about the number of people in the whole country, but there's a lot. When I go to Facebook, that's all I see every day. It's either car to car, but mostly it's car to motorbikes, because they don't have like designated, of course, motorbike lanes. Nobody cycles in this country, like I told you, so that is not accident prone thing. But maybe there is somewhere also, of course. Pedestrian, probably there is. I just don't see them as much. There probably is a lot, but I just don't hear about it as much as motorbikes. Oh, it's crazy. So we need to implement something of this nature so that drivers will actually stop to think rather than just go, 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 right? Anyways, let's go back. This is long.
Of liability laws, and that has a big impact on the flow and the level of vigilance. Because as a car driver, you have a lot of responsibility. You are driving the more heavy vehicle, the more dangerous vehicle. It's written into liability laws here. As a car driver, you are responsible. The vehicle with the most mass and the most speed capacity will be at fault. It's a very serious thing here to drive a car. That shows in traffic situations where car drivers, we get this a lot. We say, but car drivers respect cyclists here, right? Well, they're sort of forced to. But there's also safety in numbers, right? There are so many cyclists that we've reached a threshold of safety too, just because there are so many cyclists.
All right, and this is the Reich Museum. Look at that beauty. We got some opera situation going on here on the right.
A bike tour, so good. I wanted to do this in Singapore, but it was hot. If they say Philippines is hot, oh no, Singapore is hot. If Philippines is hot, Singapore is hell. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. It was hot. Even if like everything was airconned, it was hot. So I was like, nah, you're not gonna find me.
It's good stuff.
But this is the historic site of the Reich Museum, one of the most famous museums in the world, hosting all of the famous Dutch painters. Behind us here is called the Museum Plein. So this is also a historic space for demonstrations, for free speech. And what we rode through, actually, coming into here, is probably one of the most famous bicycle paths in the world. But it wasn't always here. As you can see here, this is what we're standing in the same spot. This is from the 70s. And it used to be a highway going right through the Rijksmuseum. Sort of unbelievable, right? To think that only a few decades ago was a totally different mindset, a totally different way of thinking. The city was planning for cars. About a decade ago, the museum was under huge renovations. The head curator really wanted to keep this bike path for private museum use. And it spurred a huge contestation with the bicycle advocacy groups here, of course with the city, with the public, a lot of different public organizations. They said, no, we want to keep it open as public space and even as a bicycle path. So this is just to say that these tensions are still coming up today. It's not like, that Amsterdam is the bicycle capital and will always be. There really needs to be still this fight. Fortunately, the advocates won. And what we see now is this really iconic bicycle path through the museum. I think the lesson here, for me, I'm not an activist or an advocate, but I deeply appreciate and have benefited from the hard work of these individuals and groups who have fought this good fight, right? To continue the fight for public space, for bicycling, and we see the benefits today. I mean, this is one of the most visited places in the Netherlands, if not the world. And maybe in your cities too, you can imagine what are those iconic places that can sort of be representative of the culture and inspire us and representative of cultural values. I mean, to me, this also does represent this Dutch ideal around sharing space and public life.
Is this thing on? We're gonna switch it up a little bit, and Tara's actually gonna ride the bike. I haven't really done this too much, and I'm a little bit nervous, but I guess the tables have turned. Yeah, take the jacket off, Tara. Get ready. You can do it. You can do it. I don't know what I'm getting myself into here. Turbo mode.
Okay, alright.
All right. So far, how we doing, Tara? We good?
I mean, even if I do dump you out.
I know you'll do your best to save me, just like you saved that camera the other day. All right, here we go. Oh. So what do you guys think? Is this a new angle? You could do it, Tara. You could do it.
Go, go, go.
This is when you really appreciate electric assist. It's super windy right now. All right.
So here we are back at the outskirts of Amsterdam. I remember I said that cycling rates are some of the lowest here, right? But there's more car use. So actually these are competing, right? These competing modes here. We have fewer people living out here, less density, but also what about services? What about Alba? Did you see any grocery stores along the way? Did you see any services? Any? No, right? So that we've got distances. We've got much longer distances between places, people where they live, people where they work, grocery stores, and people who would like to drive. This is where they're going to live because you can have a car. There's no permits, right? You can have 2 cars if you like. It's cheaper. But on the other hand, you still have access to a train station. That's what we're at right now. This is one of the 5 major train stations in Amsterdam. And what do you see around us? Lots of bicycles. So in fact, 50% of train passengers arrive to the station by bicycle. And so the bike train system, public transit, high capacity, high efficiency, reliable transit. So bike sharing systems are also increasing in prevalence. The train company has their own bike sharing system. Literally every train station in the Netherlands, you can get a bicycle and finish your trip by bicycle. A way to replace car driving could be this combination of bike and train, right? Because you can really expand your radius. So I'm closing it here. We're gonna ride back, but I'll be around for lunch. I'm happy to keep the conversation going and keep discussing if you wanna talk. Okay, so we'll just ride back and we'll park the bikes where we found them. And yeah, thank you.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been so nice. I actually wanted more. I'm so like cozy and I'm enjoying the bike ride, the scenic view and her explanation. I feel immersed even if I'm just sitting here. That was so good. Initially when I saw the length of the video, it was like 22 minutes with my talking. That's gonna be like 30 minutes, which it's close, but it didn't feel like 22 minutes. It felt so short. It felt like 8 minutes, to be honest. So if there's more videos like this, let me know because it's so good. I don't know if you should just be enjoying, but I hope you enjoyed as well. Thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye.